Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back, guys, at Magic. This is Hunter and Steven. Say what up, Steven.
What's up, guys?
We are back. This time, Steven is taking us through Draconic Dissent. That's the new Precon deck from Commander Legends 2 Battle for Baldur's Gate. You're a designated D&D player of our little group. What do you think of this as a D&D set? Is it cool?
It's pretty cool. I think that it is not the power that I would normally want. I do think there's a bunch of cool cards. There's definitely like some little mementos from the campaigns that we've played in the past. The unfortunate thing is those mementos are definitely like the lower power cards, which is kind of unfortunate. But here we are.
Here we are. Well, let's jump right into it. This is, again, Draconic Dissent. So, talk to us about your commander and what you've decided to do with the deck.
Yep. So I just kept the face commander. I went ahead and kept Firkraag, Cunning, Instigator. It is 3 colorless, a blue, and a red. Flying haste. Whenever one or more dragons I control attack an opponent, goad target creature that player controls. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of my opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, I put a +1/+1 counter on Firkraag, Cunning Instigator, and I draw a card.
That sounds pretty cool. I like this a lot, actually. I think because he can also trigger himself.
Yep, it is pretty cool. I do like the fact that he can trigger himself. This was definitely an interesting deck for myself to build, just because I'm not really used to playing this kind of style. I don't really do Izzet too much, so this was definitely a challenge and a fun deck to make.
So, how did you take the deck? What direction did you decide to take it?
I just went straight into Goad. I went Dragon Tribal to a certain extent. I added a couple non-dragons just to kind of make it a little bit better for us to be able to do that. But pretty much this is just straight beat face, sling a couple spells maybe. But I mean, really, this is just to try and get my opponents to kill themselves. And then once it gets down to me, hopefully have such a board presence that it doesn't really matter what you have to do.
That sounds fair.
Fair to
So,
me.
so let's jump straight into it. What are you adding to make this a $100 upgrade?
Yep. So I will go ahead and start with the non-dragons that I added. I went ahead and added Dragon Speaker Shaman. This is a colorless and 2 reds. Basically, this spell allows us to cast dragon spells for 2 less. And then, of course, I had to throw in Dragon Lord's Servant as well for 1 colorless and a red. This one says dragon spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. We do have some pretty big mana cost dragons in this deck. So I did kind of want to put these 2 in there just to kind of reduce their cost a little bit. Yeah, with a $100 budget, we couldn't really throw things like, Urza's Incubator or Ruby Medallion in here. Do stay tuned for that $300 upgrade. There will be some cool stuff in there. But with these 2 cards, I feel like we'll be able to get some cool things done. One of my favorite cards that I added was Anger. It is 3 colorless and a red. It has haste. As long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control mountain creatures you control have haste. That's cool. The fact that you can just have something in your graveyard doesn't really matter. You can pitch this card and everything you throw on the field can attack the same turn it lands. Definitely love stuff like that. Another card I added specifically for some goading and stuff like that, Life of the Party. It is 3 colorless and a red. First strike, trample, haste. Whenever Life of the Party attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. When Life of the Party enters the battlefield, if it's not a token, each opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. So this is pretty cool. So I mean, automatically you have a creature, every single one of your opponents gets a single copy of it, and it's just as big as everything that's on their side of the board, which is pretty cool. One of the last non-dragon creatures I did add was Fumiko, the Lowblood. 2 colorless, 2 red. Fumiko the Lowblood has Bushido, X, where X is the number of attacking creatures, and then creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. So it really goes with the theme of the deck, basically just making sure that everything attacks. This one's just a little sketchy just because obviously, it's not saying that it's goated, but at the same time, we're hoping at this point that we're able to get some cool things on the board just to kind of help ourselves out.
You really want to have some blockers up just in case, just to force your opponents to attack.
Hmm. I mean,
elsewhere.
the cool thing about this is that, so at least with the Bushido in the trigger as well, if this card blocks or becomes blocked, it gets plus X until the end of turn. So basically, it is pumping itself to block, which is kind of nice. So hopefully, no matter what they throw at you, you're able to kind of kill it.
Yeah, because if they're attacking you, then it just gets a bigger. You could get a bigger creature.
Exactly. Kind of like puts people on a little off premise to not attack you. But I did add some extra dragon creatures because I love dragons. I went ahead and added Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, 2 colorless, 2 red, flying, trample. When Atsushi, the Blazing Sky dies, choose 1. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, or you can create 3 treasure tokens. Really like the 3 treasure tokens aspect of this card. Basically, you have a 4/4 for 1 if you kind of think about it like that. I kind of wanted to start digging into the deck a little bit to get some extra draw, so I put a cool card in there called Dragonborn Looter. It is a colorless and a blue. It has tap for 1 generic, draw a card, then discard a card. I like this card because you can kind of get rid of some trash in your hand, or if you have something that's too big that you kind of kept at the beginning, you can kind of maybe dig for something else. I also added Gadrick, the Crown Scourge. It is 2 colorless and a red. It is flying. Gadrick, the Crown Scourge, can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. I love this card just because it is a 3 mana 5/4. Yes, it can't attack, but it can still block. And at the beginning of your end step, you create a treasure token for each non token creature that died this turn. This deck has some really cool board wipes for things that don't have flying and stuff like that. So, that and the fact that we have a whole bunch of goading going around and forced combat, I can see this card popping off pretty hard, especially in the late game.
Gadget's one of my favorite dragons.
I'll be honest with you, man. I think I just saw this card for the first time when I was trying to build this deck, trying to get some cool things going, and this card's insane. This is really cool. Speaking of really cool, though, Hunter, I don't think you could have a dragon deck without Goldspan Dragon. So went ahead and threw Goldspan Dragon in here. It is 3 colorless, 2 red, flying, and as soon as it hits the field, it's got some beautiful haste, which I love. When Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. Treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact at 2 mana of any 1 color. Uh, it's a little bit on the pricier side, but a lot of the dragons that we're kind of adding in here and a lot of the spells don't cost too much. So Goldspan Dragon was an easy choice for me. I was so excited to throw this in here. We got Scourge of the Throne. It is 4 colorless, 2 red, flying. It brings back an old mechanic, I think. I'm pretty sure. The Throne. Whenever this creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Scourge of the Throne attacks for the first time each turn, if it's attacking the player with the most life or tied for the most life, untap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. This card's sick, and I love it.
Getting 2 combat phases is always awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the 2 last dragons that I put in here, Laughless Dragon Queen. It is 4 colorless and 2 red. It has flying. Whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. It also has pay 1 colorless and red. Dragons you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Yeah, this is it's a hell of a card. Just create a bunch of 5/5s every time you play a non-token dragon creature, which is pretty much almost every card in this deck. Manaform Hellkite was the last creature that I did add. It is 2 colorless and 2 red. It has flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile the token at the beginning of your next end step. 4/4 flyer. Can't go wrong here. We do have a lot of cool spells in the deck. Some aren't terribly big, but at the same time, I do feel like just to have that extra attack, just to kind of get that extra card draw and the +1/+1 on our commander, I think is going to be really cool here.
Absolutely. And those are all really, really cool dragons. But like Manaform Hellkite says, You need spells. So what are we adding as far as the spell department?
Oh, Hunter. I think I added probably one of my favorite spells, Jessica's Will. 2 colorless red. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast the spell, you may choose both. First option will be add a red for each card in target opponent's hand, or exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Probably one of my favorite cards in Commander. It's been used against me multiple times, and to finally be able to play a beautiful red deck and to be able to throw this card in there, it was definitely kind of exciting. Besmirch was another card I added. It is a colorless and 2 red. Until end of turn, gain control of target creature, and it gains haste. Untap and goad that creature. This card's nuts. 3 mana, you basically gain control of a creature. You untap it. If it was tapped, you get to attack with it. Use any ability that comes with that, and then at the end of it, you're like, hey, here's this card back. Can you attack with it next turn? But not at me. Thank you. Big Score was another card I added. It is 3 colorless and a red. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create 2 treasure tokens. Another card I added, which is basically the same thing, was Unexpected Windfall. 2 colorless, 2 red. Discard a card as additional cast. Draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. This deck is pretty mana intensive. I had to take a few extra lands out of the deck, so I did kind of want to add both of these because A, I love the card draw, and B, I love the treasure token generation that this does have.
And these 2 cards are perfect for anger.
Yes, they are. Definitely good synergy, I think, Hunter. I've never really had such beautiful synergy before.
It's such good synergy, Steven.
Synergy.
I love this.
Thank you. Another card I added, which was kind of a really cool card. I actually had never seen this before until I did some research on it. Illusionist Gambit. 2 colorless, 2 blue. Cast Illusionist Gambit only during the declare blocker step on an opponent's turn. Remove all attacking creatures from combat and untap them. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Each of those creatures attacks that combat if able. They can't attack you or planeswalkers you control that combat. Man, a lot of text, but man, that is a fun interaction piece. I'm not going to lie to you. 2 other cards I did add. This deck didn't come with any counters, believe it or not, which is kind of nuts. So I did go ahead and add 2 counters in here. Classic counter spell, 2 blue, counter target spell. And then the other one I added was Arcane Denial. It is a colorless, a blue, counter target spell. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. And then you draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep as well.
All right. Those are some pretty good spells.
Thank you, sir.
Speaking of different things, though, how about artifacts? Got any artifacts?
I did throw 2 artifacts in this deck. So like I was saying earlier, there are some big creatures in here. So I went ahead and threw Sword of the Animist. It is 2 colorless. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Just have equipped 2. Obviously, we are trying to find some lands to help us if we do have some big things. So I think this will definitely get us there. And I also added Bident of Thassa. It is 2 colorless and 2 blue. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. That's all we're doing in this deck, man. And then, of course, the last bit of that text is probably the most juiciest. It is 1 colorless blue, tap Bident of Thassa. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. So at any moment, you can literally just tap this on an opponent's turn, make them attack if they have to.
You wait for your another opponent to have nothing on the field and see your other opponent go. You're like, guess what? You're attacking. It's more effective if you attack your opponent, though.
100%. Get that card draw, get those +1 counters going. Juicy. Yep. And then really, the only other kind of spell card that I did add was an enchantment. I went ahead and threw Dragon Tempest in this deck because, I mean, it's perfect. It is a colorless and a red. Whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste until end of turn. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. I know I just said it, but I'll say it again. Juicy.
Yeah, this is anger on a stick, essentially. You just throw this as
Mm-hmm.
an enchantment.
Yep.
All your
I definitely wanted some haste in this deck. I feel like a lot of the cards benefit from being able to attack, and I think being able to attack the second the card falls on the field is going to be perfect.
yeah, I like it. Any lands? We add any lands?
Oh, you know me, baby. I had put some nice lands in here. I did add 3 lands. I did a pathway, so the River Glide pathway, Lava Glide pathway, 1 blue or 1 red. I did also add a Sulphur Falls. Sulphur Falls enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island or a mountain. Not going to be that hard for us. And then I also added a Training Center. Training Center enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Perfect for Commander. I love it.
Those bond lands are something else.
They are great, dude.
I love that list, Steven. Well done. But the sad part, the bad part, the unfortunate part is that you added all these cards, but you have to make room. So, what are we removing from the deck to make room for all your goodies?
Yeah, I hate this part. I'm not gonna lie to you because basically, like you go through your deck and you're adding all these cool cards, and you're like, man, I can't wait to play them. But then you're like, oh shit, I need to get down to 100. So unfortunately, I did remove some cards. I went ahead and got rid of both of the planeswalkers in this deck, Rowan Kenrith and Will Kenrith. They are both respectively 4 colorless, 2 red, or 4 colorless, 2 blue. Rowan Kenrith says +2 during target player's next turn. Each creature that player controls attacks if able. -2. Rowan Kenrith deals 3 damage to each tapped creature target player controls. Her ult is target player gets an emblem with whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This is cool. I mean, the +2 definitely does what we need it to. It makes each player attack. I feel like with everything we've added so far and everything that came in the deck standard, really isn't needed. And this is a big 6 drop. It's not really doing much else for us. Will Kenrith, +2 until your next turn, up to 2 target creatures. Each have base power and toughness 0/3 and lose all abilities. Target player draws 2 cards until your next turn. Instant sorcery and planeswalker spells that player casts cost 2 less. And then the ult here is target player gets an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Again, some cool stuff going on here. I don't really want my opponents to have 2 creatures that are base toughness 0/3 because I want them to be able to swing with those creatures and possibly kill some other stuff. So I took these out. So they're gone. Bye bye. No more.
Yeah, Will seems like an odd include, and I think it seems like they've only included it just because Rowan was in it too, because they
100%.
are partners. But
Yep.
it's weird, man. But
Well,
they're
they're
gone.
partners in the removal bin, so that's cool. The cards that I got rid of that are non-dragons, I got rid of the Agitator Ant. Agitator Ant is 2 colors, red. At the beginning of your end step, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature that had counters, put it on it this way. This card's cool. This card was a little bit tough to get rid of, but at the end of the day, it does say may, so you're not guaranteeing the goad. Yes, the 2 +1/+1 counters are kind of nice, but if they're building up this creature and then they're like, I don't think I want the +1/+1 counters this time, then they're smacking you with a big creature that you basically helped them with. So I went ahead and got rid of this. Another card I got rid of was Burnished Heart, 3 colorless. And then it has 3 colorless, sacrifice Burnished Heart, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped. I know we're trying to ramp, but at the same time, I think paying 6 mana for 2 lands is stupid. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Baloth, Baradal Entertainer was another creature that I got rid of. It is 4 colorless and a red. Creatures your opponents control with power less than Baloth Baradal's power are goaded. Whenever a goaded attacking or blocking creature dies, create a treasure token. It also has to choose a background. This card's cool. I don't think it is that good in this deck because it does start off as a 2/5. We do have ways to make this creature a little bit larger. But like I said earlier, I just think that with the creatures that we put in and the creatures we already have, the goading that we have, we don't really need this. So I got rid of that.
5 mana for a 2/5 doesn't seem very good, especially when you have to pump it, probably using other mana to make its ability even worthwhile. Doesn't seem very good at all.
No, I mean, granted, I understand that we'll be making treasure tokens with this card if it does the things it's supposed to, but I can't put this in the deck. Another creature I got rid of, it is also the last non-dragon creature that I got rid of, was Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. It is 3 colorless and 2 red. Whenever a creature an opponent controls attacks, if you're the defending player, create a 3/3 red ogre creature token unless that creature's controller pays 3. I'm not gonna lie, man, this one's cool, and this is definitely like if I had to put one card back in, I'm going this one hardcore. With everything we've added already, and the synergy that I'm trying to build in the deck, this card I kind of just got rid of. Um, this card for me was more of like end game, like if somebody's swinging at you and stuff. So at the end of the day, I just kind of chucked it. But like I said, I'll put this back in a heartbeat if I get some room for something else. The dragon creatures I got rid of. First one is Astral Dragon. It is 6 colorless and 2 blue. It has flying and then project image. When Astral Dragon enters the battlefield, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except for 3/3 dragon creatures in addition to their other types, and they have flying. It's cool. I get it. You're copying other creatures maybe somebody else controls. I just, for 8 mana, there's so many cool things you can do in this deck that I don't think this was worth it, especially paying 8 mana for a 4/4. Granted, you do get 2 other creatures, but still, I just put this to the side.
You get 2 3/3s.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's. I don't see the value there for 8 mana.
Now, another card I got rid of was Kaiga the Tidestar. It is 5 colorless and a blue. It has flying. When Kaiga the Tidestar dies, gain control of target creature. There are better cards in the deck that are allowing us to gain control of not even just target, but multiple creatures for whether it's 6 mana or even less. So this hit the bin real quick. Thunder Dragon, 5 colorless, 2 red. Flying. When Thunder Dragon enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to each creature without flying. This card's effect is really cool for 7 mana. I think that the Blasphemous Act that comes standard in this deck is way better. So I went ahead and just kept, I just got rid of this card. A dragon that was kind of hard for me to get rid of was Steel Hellkite. It is 6 colorless, flying. It has pay 2. Steel Hellkite gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Or it has X. X says destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate only once each turn. This is cool. I like the destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X on this card 100%. I just think that with what I was trying to do with the deck and the synergy I was trying to go for, this one was probably just not there for me, what I wanted it to do. So just went ahead and put her in the bin.
Putting it in the bin. What
Yep.
spells are we getting rid of?
Getting rid of a couple spells. Nothing too crazy. This deck didn't really come with a lot of them. So I went ahead and got rid of Aether Gale. It is 3 colorless and 2 blue. Return 6 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. I don't know. This just to pay that much mana just to get rid of 6 cards. I want my opponents to be attacking themselves and just murdering themselves. So I didn't want this card in the deck. Another card I got rid of was Compulsive Research. It is 2 colorless and a blue. Target player draws 3 cards. That player discards 2 cards unless they discard a land. I'm not going to put this on my opponent. So this is for me, and I'm not trying to discard land. So that's, I put the Unexpected Windfall and the big score in there to create treasures and draw, cards as well. So that I got rid of this pretty quick. And then really the only other things I got rid of were lands, artifacts, and enchantments. We'll go over the artifact and enchantments first. Midnight Clock, 2 colorless and a blue. It has tap to add a blue. 2 colorless and a blue, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the clock strikes 12, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library and draw 7 cards, exile Midnight Clock. This card's pretty cool. I kind of found it pointless. I'm trying to get things done pretty quick, and I just didn't really find a need to restart. Wayfarer's Bauble, 1. Pay 2, sacrifice Wayfarer's Bauble, search your library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. 3 mana for 1 land is kind of stupid to me, so I got rid of this pretty quick. Artificer class, 1 colorless and a blue. The first artifact spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. This deck has artifacts in it. I don't understand why this card's in this deck. Because really, it's pointless. Upgrade it for a colorless and a blue. When this class becomes level 2, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library. And then upgrade it again for 6, 5 colorless and a blue. At the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. I mean, no. I'm
It
sure
doesn't
there's
really
something.
fit with your
No,
goat theme.
not at all. Like this card was super weird to see in the precon. Like I get it, maybe to get the ramp out faster so you can do cooler stuff with goading, but like no, bye bye. I also got rid of Clan Crafter, which is one of the backgrounds that are in the deck. It is a colorless and a blue. It has commander creatures you own have pay 2, sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and draw a card. We're already drawing cards and putting +1 counters on our commander, so I don't really want to sacrifice a treasure to do this. So I went ahead and got rid of this card. And then the last enchantment that I got rid of was called Loot Dispute. It is 3 colorless and a red. It says when this enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. Create a treasure token. Whenever you attack the player who has the initiative, create another treasure token. It also has Loud Ruckus. Whenever you complete a dungeon, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. This is the only card in the deck that gives you the initiative. I also don't really like the initiative because it's a very specific dungeon. Is it cool that you can attack a player and create a treasure token if they have the initiative and then take it back? Yes, but no. This went to the bin pretty quick.
I feel like you don't want to give up the initiative in the first place.
Yeah, like I don't. I hate. I'm not a big fan of these initiative cards, which is really funny because like I am such a big fan of the Monarch mechanic in Commander, so I really thought I was gonna like this.
So you mentioned lands. What are we getting rid of?
All right, so I did get rid of a lot. So I did get rid of 1 mountain and 1 island. I went ahead and got rid of Ash Barrens because I get rid of that in every single precon deck because I don't find a point in it. I got rid of Desolate Lighthouse. It taps for a colorless. It also taps for pay 1 colorless, a red and a blue. Draw a card, then discard a card. I already got a card in the deck that's going to do that for us. Don't really need a land to do that and pay more mana into that. Got rid of Kerr Keep. It is tap for a colorless, or you can pay 1 red and a colorless and create a 0/1 red kobold creature token named Kobolds of Kerr Keep. No. I'm going to have other blockers. I don't really need a 0/1 kobold for anything. I got rid of Prismari Campus, and I also got rid of Wandering Fumarole as well, mainly just because they enter tapped. I kind of didn't want lands that enter tapped in the deck. They both tap for a blue or a red. Prismari Campus for 4 colorless, and tapping it scries 1 card. And then Wandering Fumarole says you can pay 2 colorless, a blue and a red. Until the end of turn, Wandering Fumarole becomes a 1/4 blue and red elemental creature with pay 0, switch the creature's power and toughness until end of turn. It's still a land. It's still going to the bin. I promise you that. And then the last land that I got rid of was Terrain Generator. It taps for a colorless or for 2 and tap it. You may put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If I was going to put a land back in and it wasn't a mountain or an island, this would probably be the one I put back in. But I just kind of got rid of it because I didn't like what it did too much.
All right. Is that it?
That's everything, man.
That's everything, man. How do you feel about the deck?
I feel like it's pretty fun. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the video, I've never really played Is It, let alone Dragon Tribal. And I think this is a pretty fun deck. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did some play testing with it before I built it, and it's really fun just to see everyone like so chaotic. Like I didn't want to attack. What do I do? It's something about causing chaos just brings joy to my heart.
There you go, man. That sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't wait to play your upgrade against you.
Don't do it.
So the question we always ask: I gave you $100 to make this deck better. What was your total at the end?
100. You gave me $100, but I needed $2.44 extra because it cost me 102.44.
Close enough. I'll give it to you.
Hell yeah.
But that is it. You got anything else to say before we send it off here?
No, if you guys like the deck, I mean, definitely let me know what you probably would have added, or if there was any mistakes that I made. Because hey, listen, man, I make mistakes all the time. But thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, and like Steven said, if you want to take a look at his deck, go down in the description down below. Hit that link to Moxfield. Check out his whole deck list right there. Click it. Click it now. While you're clicking stuff, click that like button if you liked the video. Click the subscribe button to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram and Twitter. That's also in our description. Go follow us there at Guys at Magic. And until next time, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Goodbye.